Welcome to another episode of NFL Catch-Up, hosted by brothers Mike and James Matthews, the only podcast that recaps the opinions and analysis from national experts across the NFL media landscape, delivering you a weekly catch-up of the most interesting takes from around the NFL. We'll be dropping NFL Catch-Up every Friday morning all year long across the major podcast platforms. You can find us on X at NFL_catchup. We're also available on YouTube and on the web at NFLcatchup.com.
Hey there, James. Week 1 of the NFL season is in the books, and we've got some hot takes from the experts to dive into today.
You said it, Mike. Let's kick things off with the Cincinnati Bengals' disappointing loss to the New England Patriots. Some folks are hitting the panic button, but Sheil Kapadia of The Ringer has a different take.
That's right. Kapadia is urging Bengals fans to relax. He points out that while it was a bad game, there's no need to panic just yet. The Patriots implemented a smart plan to shorten the game, giving the Bengals only 8 offensive possessions, the fewest in the NFL in Week 1.
Interesting point. Kapadia also notes that the Bengals actually ranked 10th in offensive success rate in Week 1. So on a down-to-down basis, they were producing above-average results. The problem was they didn't have many opportunities and struggled on high-leverage plays.
Exactly. And let's not forget that we have proof this offense can work. In 2023, when Joe Burrow was healthy, the Bengals finished 4th in offensive efficiency. Kapadia believes that as long as Burrow is healthy and Jamar Chase is on the field, this offense will likely find its groove.
Speaking of quarterbacks, let's talk about Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns. Kapadia didn't pull any punches here.
No, he certainly didn't, James. Kapadia argues that there's no longer an argument for Watson's on-field upside. In the Browns' loss to the Cowboys, Watson had a dismal performance, with the lowest drop-back success rate of any Week 1 starter.
And it's not just this game, Mike. Kapadia points out that over the past 3 seasons, Watson ranks 39th out of 41 quarterbacks in expected points added per pass play. That's ahead of only Zach Wilson and Bryce Young.
It's a stark contrast to the player we saw with the Texans in 2021. Kapadia suggests that unless we see new on-field evidence, we can safely assume that version of Watson no longer exists.
It's a tough situation for the Browns, especially considering the massive contract they gave Watson. All right, time to talk about a more positive quarterback situation: Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets.
Yes, the Jets-49ers game on Monday night. Kapadia had some interesting observations about both teams. Starting with the 49ers, he was impressed by how they seemed to pick up right where they left off last season, despite all the offseason drama.
That's right, Mike. Kapadia noted that aside from Christian McCaffrey being inactive, the 2024 version of the 49ers looked pretty much exactly like the 2023 version. They piled up 401 yards in a blowout victory over the Jets.
And what about Rodgers and the Jets, James?
Well, Kapadia had mixed feelings. He praised Rodgers' arm strength and ability to make big-time throws. However, he was less impressed with the Jets' offensive game plan and play calling.
Yes, the Nathaniel Hackett factor. Kapadia pointed out that while Rodgers has control at the line of scrimmage, someone still needs to design the offense and call the plays. And that person is apparently still Hackett, despite the Jets' attempts to replace him in the offseason.
Kapadia suggests that if the Jets are going to be truly successful, it'll be almost entirely on Rodgers' shoulders. The scheme and coaching don't seem to be giving him much of an edge.
Interesting take. Now, let's move on to another intriguing perspective from Kapadia. His thoughts on the Los Angeles Rams.
Yep, the infrastructure team concept. Kapadia argues that the Rams, with Sean McVay as head coach and Matthew Stafford at quarterback, now deserve the benefit of the doubt, regardless of other factors.
That's quite a statement, considering the Rams' loss to the Lions and their injury situation. What led Kapadia to this conclusion?
Well, Mike, Kapadia was impressed by how the Rams performed despite missing both starting offensive tackles and losing additional linemen during the game. He argues that as long as Stafford is on the field and McVay is on the sideline, the Rams can't be counted out in the NFC.
Fascinating. It's a testament to the problem-solving abilities of both McVay and Stafford. Let's move on to our next segment and talk about some of the standout performances from Week 1. Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated had some interesting observations.
That's right, Mike. Breer was particularly impressed with Sam Darnold's performance for the Minnesota Vikings against the New York Giants.
Ah yes, the redemption story. Darnold completed his first 12 passes and finished with a sparkling stat line. 19 of 24 for 208 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Breer suggests this could be the start of a really good year for Darnold.
It's quite a turnaround for Darnold. Breer points out that playing for Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell, with weapons like Justin Jefferson, sets Darnold up for success in a way he hasn't experienced before in his NFL career.
Speaking of impressive performances, Breer also highlighted J.K. Dobbins' return for the Los Angeles Chargers. After multiple serious injuries, Dobbins rushed for 135 yards on 10 carries in Jim Harbaugh's debut as Chargers head coach.
That's a great point by Breer. He notes that Dobbins' performance was crucial in the Chargers' victory over the Las Vegas Raiders. It's the kind of smash-mouth football we've come to expect from Harbaugh-coached teams.
Absolutely. Now let's pivot to the New England Patriots win. Matt Verderame of Sports Illustrated had some thoughts on the victory over the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yes, Verderame was impressed with Jared Mayo's debut as head coach after taking over for Bill Belichick. The Patriots played a physical, efficient game on both sides of the ball, winning the turnover battle 3-0.
Mayo's postgame quote really stood out to me. He said, "No one is going to ride on a horse and save us. This is all we have and all we need." It seems like he's instilling a sense of self-reliance in the team.
Absolutely, Mike. And it paid off in Week 1. The Patriots' defense flew around the field, dominating the line of scrimmage, while the offense leaned heavily on the run game. It was a blueprint for how they might find success this season.
Shifting gears, let's talk about Mike Sando's insights from The Athletic. He had some interesting observations about the Detroit Lions' overtime victory against the Los Angeles Rams.
Ah, yes, the matchup of traded quarterbacks. Sando pointed out that this game showed the advantage Los Angeles enjoys in pure pass situations, with Matthew Stafford relative to Jared Goff.
That's right, James. But Sando also noted that the Lions have advantages in other situations, particularly when their offensive line can control games, and Goff is free to hand off the ball.
It's an interesting dynamic. Sando raises the question of whether Stafford can remain healthy enough for long enough to make the pure pass edge matter in the end. He plays through punishment as well as anyone, but takes too much of it.
Speaking of health concerns, Sando had an interesting observation about the Baltimore Ravens tight end Mark Andrews. What did he say about that, James?
Well, Sando reported that seeing Andrews fall without being touched following a short reception was concerning to personnel evaluators. They didn't think he looked right, which could be a significant issue for the Ravens' offense.
That's definitely something to keep an eye on. Now let's talk about some of the rookie performances from Week 1. Ben Morse of CNN had some insights on Caleb Williams' debut with the Chicago Bears.
Ah, yes, the number 1 overall pick. Morse reported that Williams struggled throughout the Bears opener against the Tennessee Titans, going 14 of 29 for just 93 yards.
That's not an impressive stat line. But Morse points out that Williams became the first quarterback taken with the number 1 pick to win his Week 1 debut in more than 20 years, and just the 4th ever.
Interesting context. And despite the obvious room for improvement, Williams himself wasn't worried about the performance. He was quoted as saying, "Yeah, I don't care about stats. I feel great."
That's a mature attitude for a rookie. It'll be interesting to see how he develops over the course of the season. Now let's wrap up with a quick look at some of the other notable performances from Week 1.
Absolutely, Mike. Morse highlighted the Dallas Cowboys' dominant 33-17 victory over the Cleveland Browns. Dak Prescott, fresh off his record-breaking contract extension, had a solid performance, throwing for 1 touchdown.
And let's not forget about the Cowboys' defense. They intercepted Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson twice and sacked him 2 times. Micah Parsons was a menace throughout the game.
Definitely a statement win for the Cowboys. On the flip side, it was a disappointing start for the Browns and Watson, who continued to underwhelm since his controversial trade in 2022.
Absolutely. Let's transition to an intriguing development from Week 1, the new NFL kickoff rules and their impact.
Morse reported that teams returned more kickoffs in Week 1 than during any week since the start of last season. In fact, there were 54 kickoff returns for a total of 1,171 yards.
Those are significant numbers. Morse also pointed out that teams averaged 27.2 yards per return, which was the third most for any week since 2000. It seems the new rules are having their intended effect of making kickoffs more exciting and impactful.
Definitely. The most striking statistic was that teams amassed 68.8 expected points added on kickoff returns, which is the most in any week since 2000. That's a game-changing amount of value being added on special teams.
This could lead to some interesting strategic decisions by coaches as the season progresses. Now let's talk about another fascinating storyline: the performance of some key offensive play callers making their NFL debuts.
Yes, Mike Sando of The Athletic had some interesting insights on this. He ranked the debut performances of 5 coaches who made their NFL debuts as offensive play callers in Week 1.
At the top of Sando's list were Clint Kubiak of the New Orleans Saints and Liam Cohen of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Both of their offenses significantly outperformed expectations in Week 1.
Indeed, Mike. Sando noted that Cohen's Buccaneers offense provided nearly 17 points over expectation, which was their best offensive performance in 38 total games since the 2022 opener. That's quite a debut for Cohen.
And Kubiak's performance with the Saints was equally impressive. Sando pointed out that the Saints scored on their first 9 possessions, something that only happened twice in 258 total games under Sean Payton from 2006 to 2021.
That's remarkable. It'll be interesting to see if these coordinators can maintain this level of performance as the season progresses, and defenses have more film to study.
Well, James, we've covered a lot of ground today. From the Bengals' early struggles to rookie performances and dominant defensive displays, Week 1 has given us plenty to talk about. And we're just getting started.
You're right. It's going to be an exciting season, and we'll be here every week to break it all down. Until next time, folks.
Thank you for listening today. We would kindly ask that you rate, review, share, and subscribe to NFL Catch-Up. Remember, we drop every Friday morning all year long across the major podcast platforms. You can find us on X at NFL_catchup. We're also available on YouTube and on the web at NFLcatchup.com.